So now you got to do a sound check.
Okay.
So before you start, say something real quick, like do a testing.
My name is Robert. How is everything doing?
Keep yourself up there.
No?
Keep
Okay, no. Okay, yeah.
okay, so there you go. So if you do yourself there now, I'm gonna give you a countdown. Okay.
All right. Okay, you can do it now.
3, 2, 1.
How are you, ladies and gentlemen, doing this fine day? Today, the conversation is what it would be like when the cold and the unknown happens. Okay, and the perfect thing is what, okay, what the coldest spot in the world. Okay, what is the plants? How does the plants survive? What's the difference between what's the stress of the how does the plants work? How they mature, grow, and all that in a cold area compared to a dry, hot air area, hot in like the desert. How the two different parts of it, and in what way does the plants the materials for the plants, what's there for each plant different from the other, from the different climates of it. Curious minds would like to know. I would too. People that grows plants knows all about it would be the ones to find out. And like the pH level, okay, what is pH level in the cold of the cold land, okay, the minerals, okay, like if the P what just pH helps with the minerals of the plants. If so, um, how the building materials of all this? How does the plants do that for their souls? And in what climate? Dry or in dry area or cold area? In what way does the plants manufacturing the materials for itself? And pH level does the plant since oils are in the plants, what is the pH level in the oils in the plants? If since you got to have a pH level for feeding, water, and all that, what would be the depth of the plant itself for the for the quality for the plant to grow? You would need a pH level for each type of plant, type of other plants in climate. Does it consider climates as well, where it don't get put distress in the plant as well, and to where when plants from season to season, you know, in what way does each of the seasons affect the pH level, the DNA, and the stress from it? You know, how does a plant and the rate of growth in dry to cold area? How much is in that area of the plant? How does the plant adapts to it? To the two, if like the trees, if the two different type, if you got same tree, same brand of trees, one's there in an icy area compared to a dry area, how big, how wide does the plant get? How large is the root system in the areas, and what would be the pH for the plants for each of the areas for the plant to survive, nor to have food for itself. And pH level does what different types of pH is in there, and the molecules of a the DNA, doesn't it have a DNA for pH level in DNA for the plants to, if a plant was altered in any way, form, or fashion, wouldn't it change pH level like the stress as well? The the building of the plant. And what's 10 things from an area that what's 10 things of pH has for a plant? Okay. And what's 10 things of pH DNA? Does DNA different? What different? If there's different types of pH level in for the DNA of a plant, in what way does all that work? And like minerals, do certain minerals enhance, or how does it work with the pH level minerals does for construction of o- like oils, different types of oils, and different types of pollen from different types of plants and trees and all that. In what way does that each the difference of it from different climates, ice, and compared to hot? And what happens to pH level when the plant is in distress? Does the plant is able to absorb all of the pH level or not? When pH level works with different things, does the pH level, like pollen, does the pH level build from the pollen? I mean, the pH level helps the form of the pollen for the plants as well. Okay, that's what I'm referring to, is to where with each stuff that's being built, does the plant uses it to where when plants dispels the pollen, the building stuff of the plant uses, does it forms into the powder the of the of it as well, like with oils. Okay, how does like poison ivy and poison sumac handles the freezing cold? In what way does it handle it? Okay, compared to a dry area, the oils from poison sumac and poison ivy, is there any altered in any form or fashion of the pH level in the plants? Okay, like with corn, fruits, vegetables, peas, and carrots, and all that, from the two different like greenhouse as well. Okay, what is the pH level in the areas that grows in the cold? How is it one from the other? The parallels of the two climates difference. How is it works against the time what you have there? Okay, and the amount of fruit or food that comes from it. Which one? How does it work in the different climates? More fruits or less in a dry area or however. Okay. The stress of the plant with pH level with the DNA of the plant and with energy that creates the plant does it the, the plant energy how it generates for it to for the from the sun. Is it more increase or less decrease of energy for the plant? And how does the energy from the sun work with pH level as well? Does the two combine to form to make the plant more feet growth better, health wise, where in acids of the plant the, works together better, or in what way? And where does it help with the produce where where the plants per, makes better quality of plants, the seeds, what type of the quality of the seeds, is the seeds more or less formed correct where build where it's more, got more of a better chance of growing, not duds in it. It's got things missing in the DNA of the plant from the sun, pH level, and where and when the plants, what plants handles the air, the climate, the depth of the below sea level and above sea level, the height and all that. Okay, in dry areas as well. Okay, like if you have if when the ice age happens, how does plants the change of the how does a plant changes from warmth to the cold? In what way does the plant changes? In what way does it have an ability to manufacturing warm molecules, or where it has a way of storing more of energy wise and all that to survive? And to where what happens to like in each thing, like even in a greenhouse. Okay, if you're in a greenhouse, the difference between from inside of a greenhouse from outside, what is the difference? They it does matter because the difference from the inside, what is the the amount of the HP the inside of the greenhouse for the plant, the um, the molecule, how the the pressure of the plant, and with each of that, how does the plant respond to from outside to inside? As they say, you got when you take for season, you got to take the plant in for one during the daytime and outside for the daytime, in and at night, to where you balance out the plant. In what way does how does that okay when it does that DNA, uh, HP for the plant, the stress of the plant. Okay, in what way does it what happens during that whole time? Okay, and then what does it do to the seeds in the plant when it starts to mature and build fruit and all that, but the seeds itself too for the next generation of the plant, and the type of soil as well too. Okay, the materials for the soil helps the plant to build, and minerals, pH, and all that to it. And when it comes to RV from the sun, okay, like from the inside of the house, inside of a greenhouse, how does the amount, the quantity of the sunlight appears, and what way of the amount of the sunlight, how much is it actually the plant's getting from the inside of a greenhouse because of the plastic and or the windows. What is the amount of it, uh, the way the plant, how does the plant responds to it? Okay, and what, and with different from the different climates of the plants, like hot area compared to freezing cold. In what way does the plants are different from the growth of from dry to the air wet? I mean cold to the hot. In what way does the plants are different? How do they grow, mature, build? What is their, how much is their stress level compared to two, and the oils and the pollen within the plants as well. Because why I figure it's like this: when the plant gets to ready, doesn't, when the plant gets ready to grow the next generation, it builds up, it takes what it needs, but it expels the pollen in the air. Okay, that's a sign of where it's already done and it's on its way to manufacturing its next of whatever the plant does. And I figure it's like, well, how much during the cold have anyone ever found out what plants? There's a different type and another plants as well. What grows fruit as well. It's in the strict darkness as well too. There's certain plants as well. How does that work as well? In what way does it? Okay, like not infrared from the sun, but the pure black darkness. The plant can grow better in darkness. These types of plants do. What is the, what's the difference of the plants compared to sunlight plants as well? The ones that grows in the dark. It, it, what is their, like? Do they need like pH for for growth? What is their what is their things of their pH level, their, the way they produce? Okay, the oil from the plants. Okay, how do they? How does it work? The dark, the plant that grows in the dark. What's how? What is the process from that into a dry, like like in a dry area? You can be in a dark room in an area that's completely hot. Okay, without adding any kind of air conditioners or whatever, just climate from the hotness of where the building's at in the dark. Well, the plant from an area from the cold. Okay, how does the plants that is dark grows in the dark? How do they survive? How do they grow? What is their thing of how? What are their DNA thing about pH level, the depth of the plant? How, what does the plant produces for to material for to for growth? Okay, and where the plants that grows in the dark, how long the how does it work in different climates within dark areas? or does it have to be? What is the temperature for them plant types of plants has to be for them to grow to for the whole thing? Okay. What is their oil, their mineral content of the plant, minerals for the soil and all that, and the dark air area for the plant to make, to grow. Temperature wise, if there is, and for that type of plant where it grows in the dark, when the them, for them all three to work, what is how does it work in an area like the ice age where the unknown, like if you have the if it's got that cold where earth gets cold, what would it be like to live in that way, and what would the fruit supply, what would be the food thing would be like? Colder atmosphere, less, a little bit less sunlight. In what way would the plants handle that? What would what would grow and what wouldn't? And what would be like the growing seasons then? Will the plants still follow the growing seasons, or will they change to a different thing? Okay. And where when that does happen, if that ever did happen, okay, what would how would what would the other plants outside would be like? Okay, would you have to be concerned about how lack of like trees? What would like apple trees and all that? Okay, what would big root trees compared to small? And the how much what would be the building materials in the plants in the soil when it gets that cold and like that? What would the soil be like? What you if you would have to put more into the plant, okay, for it to where it grows just as well? Do you have to do that with the dark plants that grows in the dark? Do you have to add a little bit of HP to it, or like when you got plants that to grow um, your own fertilizer, mix materials up like raw cabbage and all that, and what is the process of that, and how does that all work? Okay, and like within the dry area, will the dark plants mature from the heat, or like during winter time? Okay, it might not have the snow, but if the cold got cold like that, what would it would be like? Like a cat, like cotton. How would a cotton plant? How would a cotton plant handle the change, climate change, where it's colder, or will you be able to grow anything when it's real cold all the time, with or without the ice, piles of ice and snow? Well, what would be the way that you would handle that situation? What would what would the plants what would plants have in it compared to before that? What it would be like after that? What would plants have in it to build to grow? Well, and what would it wouldn't have? Like in the cold, would it still be the HP, the molecules, DNA? From, how would the DNA from the cold? What would it make it the plant less grow where it wouldn't? In what way will things like that interfere in the plant's growth? Okay, and to where and like like high things of radiation and all that, like before, like what happened during the ice age. Asteroid hit the ground, high things of radiation, everything got blown up in the air. Okay, if a situation like that happened, like it did in the past, how do you think the plants handle that? Okay, where and if that happens, what could you do? How would the plant handle a lot of cold? How would you go about growing? What would you need for that? Okay, and what's in what and where it helps the plants and all that. What things like fertilizer and all, where you can grow your own you make your own fertilizer for the plants, but not all plants requires fertilizer. And but in what way does plant progress or however it works? Okay, and I was wondering different climates, like when it's cold, what's the mineral in the soil? Okay, to where to where the, for the plants, when you do grow plants and they're cold outside all the time, okay, will plant still is able to grow within that or not? Okay, would that consider what different types of soil with the the way the plants is? Okay, um, curious mind would like to know, because with all the new stuff and all that, and like genetic modified foods, in what way would in that same predicament would that genetic modified foods able to grow in that same situation? Okay, what how the difference between genetic modified foods in a climate area like that? In what way would would that progress different from the plants that ain't genetic modified? What is the 10 things uh, the plants genetic genetic modified plants have? 10 things different between that in a thing of cold or hot. It in that way with high things of radiation. Okay, how will the plants handle that situation? Like the ones that grows in the dark compared to regular crops that grows in the sunlight and genetified foods plants. Okay, how that either three? What would what would be the building blocks of them three types of plants? Okay, if what what would be the process of the plants, how it works in the climates, different types of climates from what it is now to what it could be, and how much how much of the growth of a plant, how much of a growth of a plant comes up when it's cold or too hot within it? How does the plant re- the stress of the plants in the cold or the hot? Okay, way different types of climates in it. Okay, and how does the plants feel from it? If does it alter the plants in any form or fashion of that type of climate? And does the seeds go through the same change as well too for the next generation of plants? Okay, and where each and them three types of plants, what way would you think that would be a good or bad of the plants? Okay, and this is Robert Hanson. Oh, well, this is Robert Hanson thinking of what could you what what different things could you do? What do you think you can do for the process of to help your plants out? What is the like in the cold? Does a poison ivy or poison sumac? How do they handle the cold? How if the climate changes and all that? Okay, when vines, any kind of vines, will they decrease in volume or what? And do they take or like vines? They when they grow into like rocks from the volcano, they climb all over it, but they have the roots where roots clamp onto it. Do they take materials from the lava rocks, however, whatever the minerals are from that to okay? And if does do they ever question is that does the plants survive in that like and like where different places that has unknown things like the cone of silence in Mexico. I think I said it right. I'm not for sure, but within that area, how does plants handle if there is any plants or whatever? But what is there? In what way is it? Does it different? Different types of minerals there that counteracts at what for whatever it does happen there, and where different types of minerals and what's there that makes it unique area. And if plants are there, what how does what does the plant go through as to mature? Does it and for the area that it's in, does the plant it, in what way does it do better in that situation in that area compared to outside of that cone of area? Because it is a curious thing to know. Like there's places here in the U.S. that the plant the gravity goes the opposite way, where water will go up a hill and vice versa. And I was curious, minerals within them areas, what type of minerals and how far does the minerals go down that if there is any that creates that situation or what is the process of for that to happen. But how does the plants does a plant how does a plant respond when it lives there? How does a what is the process of the plant? What how does the plant live or respond to that whole thing? Where within each of them areas, different things of the plant does. How does the plant respond to it? And if so, does it go through a change? The plant does. Okay. Like the water, HP, and all that. In what way does with it living in an area like that, if there is any slight change or not? Has anyone ever thought of it? Okay. And with that situation for what it is, plants, um, where and insects. Okay. How does insects, if there is any, how how do they live there within that area? You know, do they are they more aggressive or less aggressive or however they do it within that? Because with that the way that is and all that, it would make you wonder how does the plants how what is the insects are like within all that to where and like um, dead debris. Okay, on there, does it help the soil or well have anyone like my where it tells you oh I forget the name of it, but it's where you look you tells you north, south, east, and west. Um, well, I know that it does the opposite when you're standing there, but has anyone ever did anything else, something quite different? Okay, like what would it be? What would the sound like that there? Okay, is it smaller, louder, or has anyone ever grown anything there from small to see what? How does a plant grow? What is the growth in that spot in that area compared to outside of that area? Does the plant the the building blocks of the plant does it in any way form does it changes anything? Has it and has what kind what kind of minerals are in them areas? Curious. And to where there's other weird and wonderful places out there in other and I was curious about different types of plants and all that. Like okay, like yeah, the ground they say about plants, energy and all that. What's the difference between when the plant does get cold? How does the electric in the soil or however they call it? How does that do- does it decrease or increase or there's no difference in it for the plants? Okay, and I was that's one thing because they say that plants needs like it it creates energy and all that. It needs it, and I was wondering if that's the case. That's what is the process of it when the planet when when everything is getting colder? Is it less of it or more, or what is the process of it? Okay, I was I was wondering about that, like the sun for the plants, the RV, the light rays for the plants would be less because if the cloudy and cold and all that, or even that, even in a greenhouse. But since it's not actually in the ground, um, well, as they said about crop circles, the electrical stuff and all that, how different things affects the plants to where they can the blow out and all that. What different things of like the crop circle plants? Okay, you stop to think about it. To me, you could always try the thing of putting the crop circle plants, the seeds, in key places to see how they would respond in that situation. Okay, sure, because if they already since they've been altered by all that, what would it be like if you still grow the plants and you could always take you figure okay take plants that's already been altered and they're going to be altered when you go take them to Mars. You could take plants like that to grow there to see what comes of the plant as well too. Will the plant with the radiation from the plant, how whatever happened to the plant, the, and with the lack of sun, radiation, coldness of it, with a plant, how would that plant respond to that? Okay, like the different types of the climates, the freezing cold to like in a dry area. How would the plant? How would them seeds were to be respond? Do they where are they? What is their pH level in the plant when it when it goes through the process? What happened to it? What is the DNA of the plant from what it was to what it is now? In what way has anything different from the DNA, the pH level in it, the, the where the stress, how much of the plant, okay, the, the building of the plant, different types of plants, like how why not say that if it could grow better at Mars by the difference of the process? Is that possible as well? Because you take damaged seeds and you take it and like if you put it what happens if you put it in a thing of freezing, okay, let it get nice and cold and then you plant that. What happens to them? How does plant respond to it? Okay, the crop circle plants. Okay, the seeds from it, different types of seeds, and what is their pH level, the radiation level of the plant, where or however whatever the process of the plant went through. Okay, in what way has it changed? But with plants as well, if them plants, crop circle plants, what would they since they were already went through the process of like if you have like nuclear war, them plants would they be able to handle a lot better than what regular plants would be, considering that if they were hit by it, would the plant are the plants altered enough for that purpose where it can handle far better? than regular plants. Okay. And when you're talking about using plants as well for other things like oils from the plants, where circuitry, the little round containers that has oil in them, well, certain plants, the oils, would they be compatible for use of for circuitries and minerals as well? You're talking about using plants as parts for manufacturing for materials, other types of use of materials. You can do the same thing on Mars when it comes to that as well. For two different, you can make fuel, food, and materials for for vehicles, like uh, like the skins of a radio and all that. Or but there's wide variety of uses for what I've heard on what there everyone's talking about technology, the construction of things and all that. And that's not all that. That's not all bad. But what's pH level of clone crop that the pH level? What is the um, oil in them compared to what happened before and after? Because well, it seems odd that when it blows out, the plants do to bend over. And well, what is the oil from the plants, the acids from it, the stress, like lack of distress, with it distress would make less seeds of it. And if so, couldn't you find out, like, if that ever actually happened, would that type of seeds that could be beneficial to that subject there? How would they grow? Could they grow? Unknown minds would like to know that, because if if it, energy, if it nuclear ever happened like that, would them plants able to? Could the seeds from that process went through that time, could they still be used? And if so, would they handle it far better than regular seeds? Okay. And where they can absorb, handle the radiation and the pollution from the soil far better than what regular plants could. Because what would be how would DNA handle the pH, the pollen, and the oil? What's the different things of the plants went through all that? What is it? Because I'm bringing that all up because with everything, as everything gets changed and everything's different, okay, could that be a difference in different types of it? And when it comes to metals in the soil, yeah, well, so I think to me, I'm just guessing that, okay, for certain types of metals for the time of period, okay, like in the 1920s, they only what type of metal that did they use during that time? And if they add any kind of other types of metals into the metal during that years, you would know if it came from what century or what time period. If not, you can more or less do a thing of how many years of types of metals that did go in by the farming community and what didn't. And what is the thing of how cropping circles, different types of plants, different climates as well. Well, like Mars, they say Mars gets really cold that night. The climate changes left and right. Well, if something that's been done to the plants, who knows what the response of the plant would be in that same thing. Okay, that's why I was curious about you take and if you take some of them plants, the seeds, you put them in space, you you hold on to them, just set them in the thing for a while, just let them get used to the deep space, the plants, and then you plant them to see how the plant progress, the difference from it, different lack of earth and more in space, different climate from it. How would a plant respond to it, and how would it grow? Because we're talking about medical, and we're like everything's in like with in perfect example, new types of sea life. If that's the case, then plants would be going through the same process as well too, wouldn't it? Because I figure with different things being changed in the community, in the area, in what way does the plants changes as well too? If they do or don't, who knows? Anyone can come up with ideals or say it's always a possibility. Just the ideal of what could be. What happens if that ever actually happened to civilization, where it gets that cold or high radiation, okay, in the areas, okay? What would it be like for the plants and the food? Okay, how would each of them? How would they? How would they grow and all that in that area? And when that all happens, okay, what type of other plants? What other like more? There are certain plants that could handle the cold, but what about the like? What would be the seasons? When what way would the seasons changes? You know, if it gets like that, where it's cold, but it's not like the blizzard or ice age, but it's drastically cold, or if something happens where we got nothing but straight heat, okay, radiation's up high, because like who knows if the ozone layer ever did have a hole in it, and that actually happened, how would the plants and the soil be? What would it be like? Okay, what different things like the pH level of soil? What would it would be like? What? How far will it? The depth of pH? What would it be different in them different types of environments? In what way would it? And minerals as well. Like what type of minerals are in the soil, and how would they? What happens when that situation, the climate gets to like that? What happens then? Okay, um, like for plants, does the vitamins from the plants there, or it gets depleted, or from the sun, or I mean from the heat, or the radiation or the cold? What what helps or what makes it decrease beyond the plants? Okay, where lack of it, you know, it's the thing we none of us might never know. But what if that actually happened? And if for people that would know, what do they say about the subject at hand? Well, it's just the thing that it would we all would find out because with growing it and like with I was yeah, and that's one thing too on certain the them plants. How would they work with honeybees? Okay, um, crop circle plants. Would they be pollen by bees? If you take the seeds and grow, how would honeybees be going there to them plants or not? And if they do, how would they how would they do that as well? And I forgot too about the hummingbird as well. Hummingbirds does it just as well too. I forgot about the beautiful hummingbird and like okay the hummingbird. How does it? What is it? I was wondering how does the humming what does when the hummingbird that does do it? What is how does it help? How the hummingbird don't get sick or anything from? How does it process the pollen from the plants or whatever? Okay, how much of a how much is that part of their meal of doing that? Okay, because I forgot about the hummingbird and how the hummingbird does certain other things as well, like what the bees do. And yeah, but that is the thing. How does what does the hummingbird does the honeybird and the hummingbird with the bees do they work together doing the same thing as well? And I that I was I forgot about them, but yeah, what climates are the hummingbird from? Because for for them to be big part of it as well. Yeah, and what makes the hummingbird to where you know? Yeah, does anyone would know about the area that the hummingbird's from? Because that's a thing. You know, the pumpkins and the watermelons and all that. But yeah, um, but what is the process of the hummingbird? You know, how does the hummingbird? How much does it take in it? Would you say? I mean, how fast? I mean, the area that the hummingbird. Because man, that they're pretty quick and they use a lot of energy. If if they're around farmers, or how do they respond to clone fresh fruit or clone food? Do they if they even went through the process of pollination, the fruit, the clone foods? Okay. I don't know if hummingbirds do that as well there or not. And and I was curious about the the pro what is the process of it. Okay, like it, the plants and all that. Okay, yeah. Well, with hummingbirds, honeybees, and pro, pro, and all that. If anyone I'm glad. And this is Robert Hanson. Thank you for appearing here. Understanding what if this happens is the thing. Okay. You have a nice day. This is Robert Hanson's wife. What if? Okay. You have a nice day. Thank you for coming. If you like it, mark it yes or no. uh, like it, subscribe, and share. Thank you very much.